Kia ora. Welcome to HUI's with HOKA. I'm your host, Gus Barrier. And today I'm going to take the opportunity to actually do the old switcheroo and reverse your podcast experience by interviewing your number one host, HOKA. So, Mr. HOKA, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, first and foremost.
Hello.
Yes, I can introduce myself. I would like to give a shout out before we start properly, first and foremost, to Golden State Coffee.
Cheers.
Let's actually have a sip, eh? Tim. Bam. Yeah, shout out to Golden State Coffee for supplying the goods here. Not just drinks today, also a bit of breakfast. Core MMA for allowing us to be in their amazing facility. Big thank you to Tim, who's behind the camera again today, who's gonna, be like, form the triangle between you, me, and of course him. And
he's going to be able to pull that shit up.
And he's gonna be able to pull that shit up, just like Joe Rogan does with young Jamie. So, I'm excited to be here. A bit spontaneous that. Yeah, you caught me off guard that you actually prepare questions and that we're gonna, have me on today. But yeah, what was the first one? Just introducing myself.
Would you mind introducing yourself and giving us one fun fact about you or a fact that nobody knows about you?
Okay, sweet. My name is Armin Schmidt. I'm 34 years old, soon to be 35 in April. I am a German-born engineer by trade. I'm also an educator, I'm an artist, I like to skateboard, I like to surf, I like to practice the mixed martial arts as such. I like to read, philosophy is big on my radar. And I've been living in New Zealand for the past, I think, 5+ years or so. What else? Favorite color and this and that? Or is that good enough? Well, you're the host, you gotta pull that out of me.
Would you mind giving us some of your, I know obviously you haven't said much about your martial arts background, but would you mind giving us some of your kind of accomplishments maybe? I know that you're a BJJ purple belt.
I am a BJJ purple belt, 2 stripes.
2 stripes.
Hopefully soon to be 3. We have another grading coming up and I've been preparing for that. Other accolades, man, I made the German team once upon a time, the German amateur mixed martial arts team. Unfortunately, never really competed for Germany as such because shortly after I made the team, I migrated to New Zealand, living in beautiful Aotearoa. But I reckon one of the biggest accomplishments was to this day to fight for the German lightweight title as an amateur. Unfortunately, lost the bout, but yeah, I'm not dwelling too much on. It's the experience along the way, like meeting cool people and.
Just fighting for a national title was a pretty big thing.
Yeah, that was pretty. I did not even realize.
I didn't realize that either.
Years after, that was blew me out of the water because I was supposed to fight for like in the featherweight bracket, but there was not enough competitors. So I was like, oh well, what am I going to do? And then they asked me, okay, do you want to be in the run for the lightweight title? And I was like, well, no cutting weight, then let's go. And
for those that don't know, featherweight is about 66 kilos.
65.8 if I'm not mistaken.
There you go, 66 kilos. And lightweight is 70 kilos. Weight cutting is a big thing in MMA and it is a massive advantage. So it just goes to show Mr. Schmidt's prowess to be able to jump up a weight class and fight for the national title. So
yes, but the next one is going to be at featherweight again.
Yeah.
There's the word on the street is March 18. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to make another experience, as far as it comes to credentials, I'm just proud, to train under such great people and being affiliated with not just core mixed martial arts and Kirikiriroa in New Zealand, but also the HUI training center back home in Germany, where I learned the ropes for the most part, going from karate. Then I branched out into boxing and kickboxing, did a bit of other stuff in between, and then came back full circle.
Cool. I think that can be a fun fact about you as well.
That's the fun fact.
Yeah, yeah.
I never told you. Eh?
No, I had no idea.
I was about to tell you something
too
very
humble.
awkward, actually, but I was like, I might leave that out of the picture.
How do you bring that up? Hey, by the way, Gus, just wanted to let you know I represent my country.
Yeah,
Cool.
true.
Have a good day. Thanks.
Yeah, true. That is a good point.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. So circling back to, obviously you are German born.
Yeah.
I would like to bring it back to your childhood. What was that like? And how did you end up in New Zealand?
Oh yeah. Childhood. So I was born in '88, which means the wall came down shortly after. So my parents jumped the border to secure a better life. Here's another funny fact: they smuggled all their belongings, or like jewelry and cash they had, like everything that had somewhat value, in my diapers.
Really?
And they were hoping I would not poop myself.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so they
Literally.
they literally jumped the border to secure a better life. Both my parents and my grandparents, and just the lineage. I think that's a very German trait. Very hardworking, like very disciplined, very determined. So jumped the border. I was born in Berlin. They jumped from east to west.
So this was after the Berlin Warfare, was it?
Yeah, just shortly after. So I grew up in Berlin for a little bit. Yeah, rough, you could say. Then moved around, and then my father established a little business. That's his life accomplishment basically. With his brother, they grinded and grafted their whole life to secure a better life for their family. Every once in a while you have someone in the family who like breaks the cycle, and my family was always, from what I've heard and what I've known, very poor, very, very low living conditions. And then, my dad and my uncle, together with their wives and, the people around them, they created a better life for them. Not like wealthy, they're not balling on the yacht, but, just enabling my brother, for instance, to go to like a boarding school that was big, and just those type of things. Yeah. Upbringing, I was always just like any other probably martial artist. Shout out to Ethan Brockett, because he was the same.
Shout out, Mr. Makachev.
I was never ever really be able to contained, I always moved around. I did like to the dinner table, I did another roll, hiding under the table, getting out swords, bananas turned into weapons, and you know how it goes, eh? And then my mom put me into martial arts, so that was huge for me. Then played a bit of soccer, swimming, because I had so much energy and I didn't know what to do.
Going back to soccer, I understand that you're a relatively good football player, and possibly people in your town / city ended up being pretty good. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Oh, do you mean the chance that I almost missed? Yeah, so I still think to this day that I could have been a professional soccer player, and if you're 34, you would be retired. I would be sitting here retired by now, just
kicking back, reminiscing on the glory days.
Yeah, reminiscing on the glory days, but sometimes just life has different plans. I got injured first and foremost. Like I was on the brink to actually,
What position were you?
Breakthrough. So when that was all going down, I was a goalkeeper, which was also a bit of whatever. There's always adversity, but I'm too short usually. But I did a lot of drills for explosiveness and for the jumps and whatnot. To catch all those balls, because there's different positions, different stuff that you have to play. It's not just standing on that line and waiting for someone to shoot at the goal. You got to be very intelligent how you position yourself to like avoid those things beforehand. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into it. However, I injured myself. I had a very severe-ish knee injury. And then I came back from it, like, full circle, like, trying to, like, rehab and gain back my strength and confidence. And I finally got this, like, one shot where the local area came together for, like, a national team squad assessment. And I was invited based on my past credentials. And we did all these like crazy tests with like reflexes, shooting power, juggling, agility, like random stuff, like crazy. And I outdid all the field players as well. Like I was so good. I had so much confidence. Plus, I must say, on that day, my mojo was just, you just cannot explain. Sometimes it's there.
You're locked in.
I was locked in for whatever reason. Like everything was just rank number 1, rank number 2, rank number 1. It's just, I was on fire. I could not believe. I was so proud of myself. But the guy who was doing or signing off the final assessment, he did not have anything to do with me. He absolutely hate's a strong word, but you know, he disliked me a lot, you know, for maybe a particular reason, because we had like a regional get together or whatever game like a few weeks prior, where he was in charge of, you know, putting a squad together from all these different teams in the area, and he put 2 people on the right wing but no person on the left wing. I don't know, maybe it was he messed up his notes or something, and I literally just, because I was so amped up for the game, because I knew that the assembly stuff and all of that would come up, and I was put my hand up and I was like, oh, I'm sorry coach, but I think there is a mistake, like is there no one playing on the left side? And he took that as an insult, like me like putting him in shame in front of the squad, and I think he carried that on, and then when my time came to shine, he was like, he made up this like excruciating story for me. It's still painful, you know, to think about it, that I was not eligible to register and get all my stuff put down, because that would have, everyone around me kept saying that would have been, you know, the ticket to make it to the big league and be selected for the national under-17s and whatnot. But it is what it is, you know, like I'm not dwelling on it. It's a cool story to tell now, I guess, and I still like to kick the ball around.
The twists and turns of life, isn't it?
There's nothing now we can laugh about it, you know. I'm still like a little bit bitter, you know, because I said, oh, that could have been it, but it's, you have to move on, you know. Once something happens, you have a choice to make, you know, a couple of seconds to like, it's like you accept it for what it is, or you just carry it on into your life.
And you moved on to New Zealand at some point. So when, how, and why?
Yeah. So I did, talking about education and whatnot, so I did an engineering degree when I was a bit younger. And after I did my second engineering degree when I was a little bit older, at like, don't know when I finished it, when I was maybe 26 or 7, one of my best friends who I went to Australia with in the past when I was very young, he was like, I'm gonna go to New Zealand, you know, I'm gonna ride some waves there, and my girlfriend's gonna be away, she's gonna go and do like a student exchange, do you want to come? And I was like, well, I finished my degree in like 2 weeks, let's go, you know, like, so I packed up my bags and off we went and came here, and the rest is history, you know. Like I fell in love with the place, fell in love with the culture, you know, the Māori culture. It's very inclusive here, you know, how people embrace each other. The kindness is just really off the charts, and people want you to do good for the most part. I don't know, that is something that came up later on in life for myself, because that's how I embrace, you know, this experience we call life, you know. Like I want my friends to do good, and if I can help someone with like a little, whatever it is, gesture or thing, then why wouldn't you, you know, it's not going to cost you anything. However, that really came together here, so I fell in love with the place, had to leave for like a little project that was close to my heart, and then came back, and yeah, I'm a Kiwi basically now, I think I can say that. Very happy here. I've got a lot of good people around me, and just thriving, I guess, in the environment.
And in New Zealand, we've got HOKA the martial artist, HOKA the artist, HOKA the early childhood educator.
Hey.
Are there any other HOKAs? HOKA the skateboarder?
HOKA the skateboarder. So yeah, we do in the podcast, of course, HUI with HOKA. I do a lot of art, you know. It's therapeutic to me, you know. I just finished up a big exhibition at the Waikato Museum down the road. Yeah, I'm a very, very passionate mixed martial artist, as we all know here, but we all are, you know. That brings us together. There's the glue that, you know, makes it stick. Yeah, I don't know, there's maybe couple other traits. HOKA the engineer, you know, when it comes to like fixing stuff, I've got...
I didn't know you were an engineer.
2!
Sheesh.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's the same with the... I fought for a German title. Yeah, it's cool, you know, to mention, and I feel like if you put that in a conversation, people like you know, you get that, like, whoa, you're not just that dude, you know, oh wow, you actually, there's some stuff going on in your brain.
The engineer.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm an educator myself, also, because that was always a calling of mine. When I was growing up and training martial arts, I was always very compelled. It was like helping the younger generation, like younger kids, and it was always really good. So when I came to New Zealand, I decided to study early childhood education, finished that degree a couple of years ago, and now I'm working as a ECE teacher. Yeah.
Okay, so taking it back to artistry.
Yes.
Where do you think that passion comes from, and how is it manifested in different ways throughout your life?
I spoke to one of my friends before, and I came up with this analogy on the spot, and I just used that again because it's so fitting. It literally goes from the way you tie your shoes to how you express yourself, like verbally, the way I wear my beanie, the way I, it like weaves in, like everything's everything. Come on, guys.
Everything is everything. You got to mention it once a podcast.
Once a podcast, that has to be in there. Everything is everything. It's all connected. It's all one thing. Where it comes from, I cannot tell you.
Do you have an artistic family, or
not at all? Like,
were you a bit of a black sheep in the family then, or?
Yeah, well, the way education. Let's talk about this just for a brief second. The way education works in Germany, they put a lot of emphasis on maths, grammar, physics. Those are the core values. Like everything is based around that. If you're not good at that, they basically consider you dumb.
If it's not tangible, it's not real.
If it's not tangible, it's not real. But how can physical exercise not be real? So let's say I would come home from school and I would tell my mom, "Oh, I got a 3+ in maths," and she's like, "You're still not cracking it there." But then I tell her, "Oh, but I've got 4 A grades in sports, and when I did this arts class, I've got 2 B+," and she's like, "Oh, well, that doesn't really count. Where is that gonna get you in life?" So I was like, well, this is probably not a path to go down. And I mean, your parents, they always have your best interest, but not as such. If you think about it, they want you to do good in life, financially, X, Y, Z, But back then, it was post-war, and then it was also post-war. So my parents grew up, from their parents, just came from absolute poverty. And I still remember to this day, my grandfather would enjoy just a chunk of butter with salt on top. He would slice it up and eat it. Best thing in the world, to just get those nutrients post-war. There was that. I was explaining to my grandma once upon a time what vegan is or plant-based. She was like, just the thought of having an option what to eat was so foreign to her. Anywho,
I think that comes back to the kind of like a conservative mindset versus like a progressive mindset, because a conservative mindset comes from like a fixed amount of resources and you've got to do what you've got to do with them.
Exactly.
Whereas a kind of more progressive mindset comes from there's an abundance of everything, which it sounds like based on your family kind of making it a little bit, you had a little bit more freedom to roam as opposed to your parents, which were like, you better sort your life out, man.
Yeah, man, we've got this option here, we've got some chances, you gotta make it happen. But look at this, we're sitting in a storage room. Tim pulled his bedside table and this beautiful plant,
beautiful plant, Tim.
We make it happen. You took a day off work, we make it happen with the resources that we have, like I drove for like an hour and a half because the road's closed, There's always adversity, there's always obstacles, there's always something to overcome, But pulling it together somehow, I think this is where you have to have a bit of motivation and discipline, and I think this is what I gain most from all my upbringing. But long story short, cutting back to the art question, I think because it was never really promoted when I was young, and then once I was an adult, I earn my own money, I live in my own 4 walls, I can pick and choose what I want to do. I was like, oh, might as well try this. But we talked about this before, so it got a lot to do with age too, because I can't train 4 or 5 hours anymore. It's simply, I have to be honest with myself, it's not possible. I would fall apart. I would have to take 3 or 4 rest days, So what other outlets do I have? So we talk about books a lot, philosophy, reading. I can do that without breaking my neck or training with someone for 3 hours. Painting is the same thing, I can do my training and then I go back and do something else that
When
helps
did you start painting?
When I came to New Zealand, 2019.
That's
maybe.
crazy.
Did you see something that inspired you to start painting?
I was always very artistic in a sense of, if I would see something like a skate, I used that before, a skateboarder that rolls down the street and he just has this flow, the way he ties his shoes, the way his jumper is sitting, the way, that he feels the road. It's sinking in. I was like, wow, that's cool. I wanna do this. And there was one skateboarder that also did some paintings and whatnot and had exhibitions. But back then he was like a unicorn?
Yeah,
I was about to say pony, but you're the better pony.
I wish I was a unicorn.
Yeah, so I was like, man, you can do it all. You don't just have to be one thing. How amazing. And then I was like, well, what do I have? Once again, I was very poor at that time, I lived in a rotten trailer, and like literally that thing was like falling apart from like the mold and all of that, you know, living conditions were shit. But I was like, what can I do to enhance my well-being? And then I found a piece of like plywood, went to the recycle center, got some paints, and then I started, you know, and then it evolved into a couple years later into having an exhibition at the Waikato Museum, working with the council and whatnot. Like it blows my mind, but it's like, oh yeah, I've done this. You know, it's like the fighting for the German title. It's like I'm not dwelling on it too much. It's just it's a cool experience, but don't really feel like it's necessary to like rub that in someone's face. It's cool, you know. I like to share with my friends, but anyhow,
that's a skill. That's to not be able to like. I don't know. We live in a world now, and I'm so bad at this. Being proud of things that you've done in your life, and you want to talk about it because you're really proudful of it. But then finding the space to bring it up in a way where people genuinely want to hear what you have to say. So you're not just like, hey, I did this thing.
I don't know if you know, but I'm kind of a big deal.
yeah, that's a wrong burgundy. There you go. But like, yeah, exactly. Finding a group of people who genuinely are interested and want to then ask you those questions, so that you do get a chance to share. But it's definitely a big skill to be able to just be okay with it, because it's your past, make sure you are, but you don't tie up all your identity in that. I just want to chime in for a second real quick with a question back to education.
Yeah.
You mentioned before, like with Germany, they're very big on like maths, science, and stuff like that. You, as an educator, what are your 3 core subjects?
completely off topic. Kindness and respect. That's it. Because I believe everything is based on it. You know, like, especially early childhood education. Like, is it really important that I can count in English, German, Tereo, whatever other languages, that I know all the colors and this and that? Or isn't it important, if you look at a house, that's obviously the best analogy, the foundation has to be solid, you know?
You're talking to a geotech.
You're talking to a geotech. Oh, like, not just the foundation, even everything that, you know, everything that is, before you can actually start doing something, you know, you gotta...
You gotta set the piles of kindness in the ground.
Thank you, Gus Barrier. That, like, is the perfect analogy. Paki.
Kindness belters.
Yeah, and then all these principles that I learned about here, like kaitiakitanga, whakawhanonatanga, manakitanga, you know, just being very inclusive, open, and trying to help everyone, you know. Not, you know, don't forget about yourself, of course, but everything else, like, on top builds up, but through play also, you know, like, you gotta go and make your experiences, and then, you know, it's like a child, you just give a little push here, you know, a little push there, I can see you're interested in this, maybe try this. But not like, I felt like my parents and the school system back home was like pushing you in one direction.
You're doing this.
You fucking doing this,
You better bloody be doing this.
Yeah, sports, yeah, man.
So you think it's more important, it's less about you need to learn this tangible skill, and the skill that you're actually trying to teach them is initiative, kindness, respect.
Yeah.
They figure out what they want to do by trying a few different things and make up their own mind. Is that what you're trying to say?
Empathy, somehow being able to relate yourself. You know, this is why we create a good chemistry together, because we can somehow, we understand each other with all the demons, with all the BS that is going on. You know, we support each other. And because we have such a good, you know, relationship as such, we can then build up on top, you know, and do more stuff and help. You know, it all branches out from there. But yeah, when I had my last interview to like get the job, they're probably expecting me to like fire away with all this. I was like, no, kindness and respect. I think if everyone feels understood in a room, but if I'm not getting along with half of the people for reasons X, Y, Z, and I'm holding on to whatever stuff, then I will never ever be able to collaborate. It's all kote tangata is about the people, you know, like coming together, sharing knowledge, sharing experiences, and like uplifting each other together. I don't know, that's at least what I think.
I like it.
Good.
On a small artistry side note, for those that aren't watching the video, Armin is absolutely covered in tattoos, and I was wanting to know what his favorite and least favorite tattoo is and their meaning.
Damn. Favorite and least favorite tattoo. I think I get philosophical on that one and say that it's all equal.
Okay.
Because it's all an experience, and even though if I would take one off that I don't like, the experience in my head's still there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. I might as well just be authentic and honest and wear it with pride, even though it was an experience or something that I did at that time. There's probably multiple on my body where I was like, oh, what was I thinking? But the good thing is like they all just blend in, like they
creates a story.
Well, they create me, you know, like it's all like, how much bullshit have you been through in your life? How much bullshit have you know, life is filled with adversity and stuff that you have to overcome. But it's still me, you know, so I'm not shying away from, oh yeah, well, maybe, you know, the aesthetics of this is not really,
Do you think it's...
Oh yeah, no, you go first and then I tell you which one.
I was going to say, do you look at your tattoos kind of like the same way when you hear a song that you used to vibe with a lot and you put it into a playlist and you hear that song and it takes you back to that on the bus or that walk to work or that walk to school? Is it the same as a tattoo? Like you got that tattoo and you think about the drama that was attached to your life, all the positives when you at that 1 year.
Yeah.
Is that how you look at your tattoos?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a moment in time. Positive or negative, it's all the same thing, you know, like that was my mindset at that point. So set it in stone, you know, like on my skin, you can say. But maybe one that I really, not so much regret, but a learning lesson from it. You know, I got a very sacred Thai style tattoo on my chest that is now covered with a huge wolf head. But I wanted it to shine through the wolf head to be seen still, because I don't want it to be hidden away from what has happened to me. But what I figured out afterwards, you know, I was a bit younger and the guy who was doing it, he was in prison in Thailand and he learned this like hand poking technique. Amazing, looks beautiful, you know. But when I reached out to him, I thought I would be able to like crack this like code of what spirituality and all of this is, and I really wanted this tattoo and I thought he cared about it. You know, I drove like 5 hours to get this tattoo, paid like an horrendous amount of money. It's very painful because it's very slow. It's like click, 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 click. He does it very fast. It's amazing work, but I figured out further down the line that for him it was just like, I offer the service, you pay the money, that's it. I had a similar situation in Hong Kong where I felt like a piece of meat. He literally threw me on that like bench that you lay on, boop, 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 shook my hand, and he was like, you pay over there. Like there's not really a connection. But later on in life with my guy Adam Cohey, love you to bits, mate. He's been tattooing me and he's the only one to do so for the last, ever since I came here, you know, I really created a connection with him, you know, hang out with him and his daughter, and you know, we go on like cool adventures. We really have a solid understanding and he understands and respects me for who I am and what I would like to do with this, you know, and sometimes we even exchange art for art. You know, I do a painting for him and he gives me the opportunity to put some more artwork on my body, you know, but it's like, it's really mutual understanding and respect there that, but it takes time to work towards that, you know, creating that perception for yourself. I
like it. Would you like to know my favorite tattoo of yours?
Oh, please tell me.
I like your long sword and short sword from the samurai, and I like the story behind it.
The katana and the wakizashi. Yes, that was the most recent one too. And it's a big one, you know, having a tattoo on your hand. Because, you know, when you grow up, it's like, whoa, it's German again, you know, like, whoa, tattoos, like, whoa, no. Like, you can't do this and be a decent human or have a career. And then, yeah, making the decision to put something on your hand that is, like, very visible, you know, and you can't just cover it.
It's not like a flower or something.
It's a sword. It's two swords.
Designed to kill people.
Yeah, but one's for peace and one's for battle.
Yeah.
And you need that balance in life, which we all know, you know. This is beautiful, but we all, like, training at core mixed martial arts, for instance, or like elsewhere, you know, in the world, and it enables you to be at ease. And of course, we go to battle. Last night, we absolutely, you know, I don't know, I can only speak for myself, you know, I really pushed the boat. I had to be like, okay, this is a big session, I have 2 in a row, all right, you know, like there will be some character building moments in here. But then afterwards, you know, you sit in the sauna and you're at ease, you know, because you need both.
I like it. Going back to your kind of adventures through the world, when we were talking about Thailand and maybe Hong Kong, I was wondering what kind of some of the big adventures have been in your life and how they've shaped you as a person.
The first one that comes to mind is that I went to Australia when I was 21, and that was before cell phones and all of that. Like, it was really raw, you know, like I had to go to a phone booth and call my parents from like this, it looked a bit like a debit card with like a number on it that you had to buy from like Asian stores and stuff, or like, you know, like, I mean, I don't want to be racist, but you get what I'm saying, you know, you buy these there somewhere in the counter, and you would have to walk to like a phone booth to like dial this in somehow to call your parents. That was definitely life-changing. Speaking a completely different language in a country that couldn't be further away from home, and making it work, you know, like not just being there and enjoying yourself. Like I had to work every day. I had to get up at 5, catch the train on my bicycle in the rain, whatever, to get to the plant that I was working at. And then, you know, like just organizing yourself. That was really, really big to me, you know, like being taken out of your comfort zone. I mean, as far as I'm aware, Australians and New Zealanders, they like to go to London and like to the UK and stuff. Don't get me wrong, that's still a challenge, but language is is such an important factor, you know, being able to communicate and connect to people. Man, I couldn't even ask for a bowl of rice when I got there, you know.
So you couldn't speak English?
Little, very basic. Yeah. Have you ever seen that scene in Inglourious Basterds where they talk about who speaks best Italian? Buongiorno. Like I was basically Lieutenant Alderaan. Is that him?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Well, because I went with 2 friends, you know, my English was the best. It was still shit. Absolutely. Like going to the store and buying stuff. Please say thank you. All of that, fine. But having a conversation about something, no way, Jose. But then you gotta, you know, because you're so far removed from it. Like I literally had a dictionary, like looking words up. I was sitting on the plane with my dictionary trying to figure out machinery parts for the job that I would work in. I remember in that dictionary on the plane, I heard, like I was reading about that word mate for the first time. Oh, mates for friends. Oh yeah, sweet. But yeah, there's many others, but that was the first really big one. But with soccer tournaments and all that, you know, when I was younger and martial arts stuff, you know, you would always travel. But it's within your country, you know, it's within your realm of like people, so it's a bit different.
I think there's probably one more that you probably haven't mentioned, which is your cycling extravaganza.
Oh yeah. So yeah, a couple of years ago, me and my friend came up with this idea. I mean, this is like, I don't know how to put this in a nutshell. But we cycled from our hometown in Germany to the border of Pakistan and Iran, which was an adventure that took us close to 6 months, 10,000 plus kilometers, and we did it for sustainability reasons. So we cycled to send a message. So on that cycling trip, we stopped at schools along the way to go in and have like a full day with children to educate them around environmental issues, how to solve them. We collected rubbish with them. We created things from rubbish that are then sustainable, like a self-watering pot plant. We gave away goods like cotton bags and reusable water bottles. You know, we worked with a big company that would work in like the transport realm to like get all the packages there, you know. Huge, and we did like lots of cleanups before and like test runs in other schools, like figuring out the best way to go about it. But then we also had to do it in English too, you know. Most countries, even though we went into German schools, because there's, people probably don't know, but there's German schools all over the world, you know, like they, you know, when the post-Second World War, for instance, the Germans went here, there, everywhere, so they're pretty much established all over the globe. Yeah, I did like a recycling day in our hometown. We did heaps of cool stuff, you know, but that's one of the reasons why I came to New Zealand, because we were trying to, after that, you know, travel, we were trying to convince the Ministry of Education and whatnot to help us, you know, to go into more schools and support and promote more of this. But, you know, there was just no funding. No one was able to listen to us. So I was like, well, I go back to New Zealand then, because here I really felt understood and valued for what I was trying to do. And then I did some more projects here as well, working with Plastic Free Raglan, for instance, and with some local schools, and did some more stuff with that. And I still do, you know, I still give money to charity and similar projects with my art, but yeah, it's like it's simmered down a little bit. But we're gonna do a 2.0 by the end of the year, so I'm gonna be on the bicycle again. That's back at it. It's yet to be confirmed where we're going and what we're doing specifically. But yeah, that changed everything. Like cycling through countries like Iran. Cycling, not like landing there and having a holiday. I cycled through this country.
It's hard, mahi.
That's hard, mahi. Crossing, if you look at Turkey from left to right or from east to west on a bicycle, most people probably don't know, but Turkey is fucking up, down, left, right. You know, it's a very mountain, hilly, you know, it's not like a flat country that, you know, has a couple of palm trees and you can sit there and enjoy cocktails at an all-inclusive resort, you know, like, mate, in summertime, Azerbaijan, 50 degrees, I think the 54 was the highest temperature that we recorded on the bike.
Fahrenheit or Celsius?
Celsius. Yeah. Phones would blow up, you know, like the battery would pop up.
How much water were you drinking a day?
Yeah, a lot. I also lost a lot of weight on that trip.
Sure.
Can I ask what your scariest and most beautiful experience was on that trip?
That's a good question.
The scariest experience definitely was when you're in the desert. Dasht Djalut is the hottest place on earth, and we had to cross it to get to.
What country was this in? Sorry.
Iran.
Okay.
Like between a triangle between Afghanistan, Iran, and Pakistan. They call it Baluchistan. You know, it's like a territorial thing, and we had to cross like this desert. There was a few deserts that we crossed, and we crossed the Alps and whatnot. So there was a few crazy things, but because it's such a hot area when it comes to like terrorism and like people get kidnapped and whatnot, like midway into the desert there was this like convoy, like military convoy, and they picked us up with machine guns and everything, like loading the guns on top of their cars, and you know, it got but you know, I accepted the situation for what it was. Not that it was scary, it was more so interesting and cool to experience. I was like,
that sounds pretty scary to me too.
Yeah, but fuck, what do you do? What do you do? Like if they take your passport out there and you disappear, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, where do you go?
I guess there's no point being scared.
No, there's no point of being scared.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Run away?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good. Thank you, Tim. Like running away, they took us to one of their checkpoints. It was literally a concrete slab in the middle of a desert with like a bit of a seal on top. And then I was sitting there with my mate being like, fuck, look at where we are.
Could you speak the language or no?
Nah.
Could they speak?
Hello, thank you. I know what food means. I can tell you what scrambled eggs are. Tochtomok.
There you go. That's the most important one.
Yeah, boho is food. Random, you know, but we're sitting there and then all of a sudden they all get into battle mode. They load their guns, they put on their like, their bulletproof vests. Yeah. I look up and I see this one guy like in a movie, like sprinting, like throwing himself behind a barrel with a gun, you know, like everyone just got ready. No one told us what was going on. We both just sitting there still, and I was like, oh, well, that might be it.
Drone strike.
But it was simply because another convoy from another checkpoint came in to pick us up, and because there is so much terrorist activity out there, they always have to have their guard up. But they transported us from left to right to X to Z and da-di-da-di-da. Eventually they put us in a hotel to like figure out what to do with us. Well, hotel, don't think about a hotel here, but you know, it was definitely like somewhat of a living situation to like keep us to figure out how to proceed.
A holding facility.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting in a sense of like, well, that could be it. But we both sat there like, didn't break a sweat over it. By that time we experienced so much shit. I was like, oh yeah, that might be it. Have a look around, sun's shining at least, you know.
If they were gonna kill you, you'd be dead by now.
Yeah, like what do you do? That's it. Like I had an amazing trip, you know. I lived like a very fulfilled life. Not scared of dying. I'm afraid of losing beloved people around me.
Yeah.
If something would happen to like my mom or like people that I really, really value and care for, that makes me sad, you know, that gets me. But my own death, I don't know. Like I don't think, nah. Most beautiful experience, fuck, it's all like the same thing. Beauty, you know, you're seeing beauty in that. Like, even though it was scary, I was sitting there thinking, man, it was an amazing trip. We did some cool stuff, you know, like we hopefully inspired some people. Amazing. I don't know, I could, like, just the kindness of people that you would not expect, you know. How is, Tim, we talked about media and military and how certain countries are portrayed by whoever controls the media and outlets and da-da-da. We talked about this in our recent podcast with you. And if you talk about countries like Iran, for instance, Azerbaijan. People, like, even when I got there, because all my family, everyone told me, just don't go, it's too dangerous. There's like people behind barrels, like they're shooting. And it's a city like Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, is a capital like any other big city in the world. It's beautiful. There's so much cool stuff to see. But it was more so the further we went away from home, the support was just incredible, you know, like people giving you water or like driving past you and giving you like some grapes and stuff that would just get you through the day. There were so many acts of kindness, because I think that's why we weren't afraid on that whole trip as such, because we knew we did this for good cause. There was not a single intention of like doing something bad with, you know, the mission that we are on. And I think people pick up on it. They pick up on your energy, just like, you know, this, you know, when you get that gut feeling. Yeah, that was the most beautiful thing, like people and their support and their, you know, just the sheer beauty of like sharing and giving and, you know, receiving. And because there was only little moments where we were able to give back, but that was beautiful.
I do think it's pretty cool that somewhere out there are some Iranian soldiers sitting around drinking. Oh, what was your favorite story about? Oh god, this one time we just found these two white boys like riding this bike across in the desert, like in that part of the desert. Yeah, we just picked them up. They probably be on podcasts talking about you.
Yeah, I hope that some of the kids still use their stuff, you know, and like still inspired by it. We still like, you know, got emails afterwards from like, oh, you did amazing and this and that, and that's what it's all about, you know, like
planting the seed.
Give more than you take.
Yeah,
that's a rule that I live by. If I can, I will. Something to learn from that trip, definitely. Takeaway message.
I like it. That was that's a super cool story, to be fair, and I'm glad other people got to hear it.
Yeah. Well, we do 2.0. If anyone wants to come along on the trip.
I found a bicycle on the side of the road the other day.
Yeah,
free,
perfect.
So there you go.
That's about that.
Some wheels now.
That's recycling. That's the mission. There we go.
This is the mission. That's exactly it.
Man, and then the engineering degree and all the other stuff. You know, my friends in educator, like how often we created like something out of like completely nothing. You know, like building something to just have shelter or like collect water, or it's just really cool because that. It's just life experience, you know, that no one ever can take away from you. It's amazing, and I'm serious about this. You know, we're gonna go on a 2.0 trip, and maybe someone else would like to come along. It's me and my friend Christopher. It's gonna be the same mission, you know, sustainability. It's yet to be confirmed where we're going and what we're gonna do, if we're gonna go into schools again, and how long it's gonna be. But we're on talks. It's getting very close, and I would like to at least invite people, even though if it's just for a stint of that journey, to come along. I offered you, of course, in the past, but Tim also, or whoever is listening to this and wants to participate in whatever form or shape, you know, like be my guest.
Shout out Tim the Turtle.
Tim that's what the project's called. Excuse me, Tim the Turtle, and it's called Tim the Turtle because children need like a punchline, you know. It becomes like the turtle becomes something that, you know, lives on land, lives in the ocean. Looks cute, you know, like, okay, Tim the Turtle is trying to rescue.
Kids do need that, you know. Yeah. Larry the library book reader or something like
there you got it. Yeah, exactly.
Harold the
John the safety bear.
Yeah. Oh, is there John the safety bear?
John, but I remember Theo saying something about some safety bear and how quickly they learn the information based off this character they can connect with and feel safe with rather than a human.
Obviously, you grew up in Germany, but in New Zealand we have a big camper van that drives around all the primary schools, and there's a person that has a sock puppet called Harold the Giraffe, and they teach you about kind of health and well-being. It's that's
but it's not the oral hygiene where they go around and like check.
No. It's like drugs and alcohol and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's an experience that all New Zealanders share, is Harold the Giraffe.
Harold the Giraffe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They couldn't even make it rhyme though. Harold the Giraffe? Could it be I don't know.
Harold the Hippopotamus, maybe?
Yeah.
It might be a bit hard to make a sock puppet, to be fair.
To make it like catchy.
Yeah. Okay, anyway. So, moving on from adventures. Obviously, this is the thing that brings us all together is martial arts, so I'd be remiss to not have a martial arts question in there. I'm hoping you're going to give me something good here, but I would like to know, who do you think is the greatest martial artist from any period ever? So we can throw it back to Muhammad Ali, Jack Dempsey. We can throw it back to Alexander the Great. We can throw it back to Genghis Khan.
Miyamoto Musashi.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's a swordsman that lived in the 17th century in Japan. And he basically taught himself in the wilderness and overcame so much adversity. Not just about martial arts and sword fighting. Like the philosophy part in that book, or he wrote the book of the 5 rings, like the codex to live by. It's good for business, it's good for whatever, but what he went through and how there's a bit of mystery around it as well, because 17th century, like how much can you actually prove? But that myth factor, like will always live on. How he defeated 60 people with like a wooden sword, like teaching himself in the woods, like his own stuff. He would meditate for, was it 30 days? Is that what it was?
I think so, yeah.
To get like enlightenment and whatnot. So yeah, reading the book about his life and learning his journey and whatnot, I think he is the greatest martial artist to walk this planet. Who knows, there's many others, like modern day area when it like fully took over for me, as in you idolize certain fighters and like certain martial artists, and then you backtrack and see who's done what in the past, and then I was like, oh, that's cool, I take this, or now this is very interesting to me. But yeah, Musashi is the first one that comes to mind.
Can I just add to the Musashi thing? I think it's like for those that haven't read Musashi by Eiji Yoshikawa, I would highly recommend if you're in for a 700-page epic. But anyway, so Musashi, I think what is really cool about Musashi is he went from being just wanting to be the best at, sword fighting and the best at kind of warfare, and he evolved past that to develop his own philosophies and his own kind of life path, and seeing kind of martial arts as just like an expression of, himself and a way to progress towards enlightenment, as opposed to just sword fighting, I think that's really cool. But yeah,
it's all connected. You use that as a vehicle that we talked about in like previous episodes to like guide you through life and like make sense of this and find ease. But you obviously thought about this question when you wrote it down, so I would like to know who's yours.
So I would almost say Musashi, but I'm going to choose someone different because it's quite a cool story. So there's a guy called Dioxippus in ancient Roman times.
Ah, yes.
And Dioxippus used to compete in pankration, which was the first kind of version of mixed martial arts.
Right.
No gloves, chinnies, mouth guards, clothes. I think they did it naked.
Yes.
But anyway, Dioxippus was the greatest pankration fighter to ever kind of walk the path of ancient Rome or Greece or wherever it was. And he got so good that he got kind of, promoted almost into the like court of the higher of the elites kind of thing. So
yeah.
he obviously stopped fighting. And when he was like, I think it was, obviously ages get, when you're 45 in Roman times, that's like being like 60.
70.
Yeah, exactly. So Dioxippus was big chillin' after all his accolades. He was just lounging on his accomplishments, and then there was a new guy that came in, and he was just destroying everyone for a couple of years, and then eventually this guy challenges Dioxippus to
get off the couch
to combat, and it was like a combat to the death, and the guy came in with, because you could have anything you want, so he had like armor and a sword and stuff, and Dioxippus came in fully naked with a stick and completely destroyed this guy, but ended the fight with, yeah, that's the guy.
Let's give us a look here.
You imagine pulling out the fight with a sword, and this guy's just like, alright, let's do it.
Yeah, and then...
To be fair, sorry Gus, but you said a stick.
I mean, a club, okay.
Still, wood versus steel.
I don't know if that's able to, like, if you can see this, but
you can.
that's not just a stick, mate.
Anyway, so comes in with a club,
But that's big mana too.
completely destroys the guy, and then finishes the fight with his foot on his throat, but decides not to kill him because that's the ultimate sign of dominance.
Yeah, because you let him live on with the defeat.
Knowledge, of defeat,
Oh.
So I think Dioxipus is a bit of a badass.
Did you read about this recently? I remember you mentioned this gentleman to me before.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. It was probably a couple of years ago, but yeah, he's a pretty cool character, to be fair.
Tim?
I, to be honest, don't know enough about martial arts. I don't really follow it, to be honest.
Don't get taint your experience here by we going back in time, because you know your journey so far, and I say this with the utmost respect, you know, if you start very late in life, it's a bit tougher.
Yeah.
But once you start, you backtrack, you know, now it's probably, I don't know who comes to mind, George St. Pierre, for instance, recent generations, and then the more you learn, you know, you go almost backwards in time. So pick anyone, don't be afraid to say whatever.
Damn, man, I have no idea, honestly. The only names that come to mind are the ones that have been thrown in my ears through media, so it's not really my opinion, I don't think.
But let's talk about, let's just cut to media. Also, have you seen someone where you're oh, the style is good, he looks very legit, or maybe a local fighter too that really inspires you? And
I don't even think there's one particular fighter even out of Core MMA that I'm you inspire me. It's more of as the fight team as a collective. A particular fighter that's come to mind is obviously the name Conor McGregor was thrown around a lot. It got me to watch a bit of UFC, probably maybe even worked as a planted seed for me to then go on to look at this. Most people I looked at in the past usually come from the military, so I'm sure there's a degree of martial arts in there as well.
I included, Julius Caesar.
Yeah, of course, you're right. It's such a good question. I want to give it the respect of the time and thought. I didn't think it was gonna. I would have been thinking the whole time you guys are answering if I know it was gonna get thrown on me.
Hey, let it simmer for a little bit. But I would like to know while we're still recording, we might go keep the torch back to Gus here for a minute. But maybe something comes back to you. I like that you take your time, and I'm always trying to pinpoint something. Maybe it's the German in me, answer question for answer.
Because I could give you a name, but then I want to be able to back that up and actually be able to, I know this is my favorite because blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, small martial arts side tangent. Because my boss actually asked me this question a couple of weeks ago. And my question is, if you could only train one martial art for self-defense, what would you choose and why? And you can't choose MMA.
I was going to say, that's the obvious one.
No, the question is, if you separate the words of the question, then it can't be martial arts or mixed martial arts, because the question is if you can only train one martial art. So mixed martial arts is out of the picture. I go with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then throw a bit of adversity out there too. Gi.
Really? Okay.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the gi, to make it very specific, is the one that I would choose to train in if that's the only one. And why? I think out of all the martial arts, if you train it correctly, I think that translates to all of them, is the most sustainable one.
Okay.
Because even if you just play guard is basically you lay on your back with your legs open. Looks a bit funny to someone.
You're big chillin'.
You're big chillin', you're just responding to what is happening in front of you. And if you reach a good level of understanding movement and feeling and this and that, with very little output, you can cause severe damage. But I guess if you're a trained boxer and you have a good straight right, and you just have a good timing, and you just boom, end the fight there. But it's not so much about being a one-trick pony there. It's about, and I talked about this last night. It's funny that you're asking me this now. Sustainability is the key word here yet again, because I want to still train when I'm 45, 55. Then I maybe get challenged by a younger guy. Who knows? Just linking this back to...
Dioxipus.
Yeah, Dioxipus. I want to train. I'm a mixed martial artist first and foremost. Fighting and making another experience and competing, that's all great. You know, like it's awesome. It's like invaluable experiences that you make through that. Like we all had our rockstar moments so far, you know, and it's great. You add on another one. But I'm very interested in like the training, the philosophy, and keep evolving. And I'm using the analogy now of the rabbit and the tortoise. The rabbit might be faster, but you know, the tortoise is still gonna slow and steady wins the race. You know, like knowing how to plan out the sessions and like moving forward gradually, slowly, you know, and still be able to train and be healthy, you know, without niggles and pains, you know, to evolve in that art.
I think just adding on to that, the cool thing about grappling arts is that there's an escalation of severity.
Elaborate.
So if your uncle's being a bit too drunk at Christmas, you don't have to knock him out to subdue him, you know. You can just
put them in a little lock.
Yeah, just take him down or just, you know, hold him, you know, as opposed to striking arts where it's like, I have to really hurt you to stop you.
It's not just self-defense for you, it's also self-defense for your opponent as well.
Yeah.
Am I guessing correctly that you either pick BJJ or judo?
No.
What did you pick?
I said wrestling.
You said wrestling?
Yes, I said wrestling. I think that jiu-jitsu is really good for self-defense, but I think, you know, especially kind of, I'm not sure if it's evolving or not, but it seems to me like a lot of jiu-jitsu players can't wrestle, and jiu-jitsu starts on the ground. I think the most important
first contact,
is being able to either wrap someone up or being able to put them on their ass if they need it.
Jiu-jitsu starts on the ground.
Jiu-jitsu,
it evolved into, you know, most people start from the ground.
Jiu-jitsu players often don't train their stand-up enough.
I see that. I get that a lot. We got to roll, and then they sit down. I'm just like, no, I want to practice takedowns. Come on.
Yeah. And it gives you the first piece of advantage almost.
Yeah.
Because if you establish your grip and you put him into the starting position that you want him to be in, that's like 1-0 for them. That's what I think what Gus is pointing.
Yeah, I think because jiu-jitsu, especially when you're sparring, like if one person sits down, you have the person that's standing has the prerogative to have to engage with the person sitting, right? But in a street fight, obviously you're not going to sit down, so you're practicing a lot of not necessarily bad things, but you're not practicing the first step enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think being able to put someone on their ass is the most important thing.
I like that answer, because you know you have a certain mindset and then he adds another perspective to it. Makes so much sense. But do you think that becomes from you in such a competitive mindset at the moment that you're thinking about all these, like, I'm just thinking about when you asked me the question, all I was thinking about, like, how can I train in this martial art the longest without getting like severe crazy damage? Wrestling is pretty tough. It's pretty tough.
Yeah.
But because you're so competitive in the moment, and you have been over that ever since you started, you know, guys, I think you seeing it from that angle of like, oh, how can I establish a point from like the first contact and like put myself at an advantage instead of just, I was thinking about playing around, rolling, you know. I didn't even think about that. Is that, am I?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think it's one that, there's hardly anyone that trains wrestling past 40. Like, it's not
sustainable.
It's not sustainable, and I think that is a good point.
Beautiful though.
But I'm hoping that when you're 60, you're not getting into street fights.
Hopefully you've got something else going for yourself. I would like to shoot one to Tim, like coming from here, I'm answering. When you started training mixed martial arts, which martial art were you most uncomfortable with? Like, what felt most uncomfortable learning?
Jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu, because it's so unnatural, eh? As long as you keep practicing, I think it's all good. Sorry, I just wanted that.
No, you're good. You're good there.
Because it's so recent, you know. Like, I was wondering, like, what was the one that. But actually, I said to someone recently who started jiu-jitsu at our club back in Raglan, and I was like, you have a child, like your boy. Think about your boy, like playing with his mate. You know, they have a bit of a tumble, but it's playful. You know, like I'm not trying to kill you here. You hopefully not trying to kill me, unless that would change the whole like narrative of what we're trying to do here. But just to get an understanding of what we do here, just try to think about that. Just get a feel for like rolling over your shoulder, maybe spinning on your back a little bit. To get out of a transition. Maybe even pass with a cartwheel if you feel like it, where we come from a gymnastics background. Just, like we said about Harold the giraffe, have like something that relates to it, to like have a transition into it that makes it easier to understand.
Have you thought of your martial artist yet?
I haven't exactly pinpointed one martial artist, but I did come to a bit of a consensus of someone who's made an impact on me, and that would have to be Sensei Carlo.
Oh. Shout out Sensei Carlo.
Yeah, it's the mix between martial arts and business. Someone who's so passionate about it, he took it upon himself, and obviously partners, to create an environment like this where we can engage in this space to do this, train in multiple martial arts. Like, he's not here all the time, but no Carlo, I wouldn't have probably done martial arts.
And aren't those the people that you would like to do business with?
Yeah.
You train with, exactly their insides, outs, how they train on the mat, how they behave, kindness, respect, da-di-da-di-da. It just goes on and on and on. He probably did read the Book of the Five Rings as well to incorporate it into his business.
It's a legacy. Look at this place. Everyone I've ever invited to this facility who doesn't train here is blown away at what we have access to. 24 hours? What, you just come in here and train? Yeah.
Sauna, ice, physios,
Yeah.
movement classes, yoga even.
That's, to me, represents ambition. It doesn't look the same as competition ambition, wanting to win this or get this promotion, but it's the same thing, being able to have a facility that you run and operate for people to come and train in. That's amazing, man.
Cool. Good answer.
Good answer.
And on top of that, he's a complete badass in the ring and on the mat. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just some investor. It's just like, I've got lots of money to start this gym, but I don't know anything about it. He's training and teaching.
He does get down and dirty, to be fair.
Yeah. Of course.
I like it.
Thank you.
Cool. I have one more question.
Go.
All right. What advice would you give to yourself at ages 5, 15, and 25?
I don't think I would give myself advice at the age of 5.
What do you mean?
5 is all about enjoying life.
That's advice?
Yeah.
Enjoy every day, play with your mates, just go out there, climb some trees. I think I did all that, I'm very... I don't know, 5 is too early to...
Okay, would you like 10?
Nah, 5 is good though, because the first 1,000 days of your existence
is the
most important. 5, we already exceeded that, but...
Okay, well, what environment would you create for your 5-year-old self to be beneficial for him?
Well, I would just hope that I would have a lot of freedom, to explore what I would like to do. I mean, maybe it goes with be kind and respectful towards others, because that will just come back to you, no matter how much I play and this and that, that's the time in life where you really get to explore and do what you would like to do, like without too many restrictions. Your parents are there to just guide you a little bit, but let you run free to evolve and create your own character. But Armin, no matter what you do, just be kind and respectful, think this through. Empathy, that is important. I don't know, maybe that would be it. Then you said 15? Mate, 15.
I picked 15 specifically because it is the most the worst age for boys. I reckon.
Because you're not perceptive.
Yeah.
Everything's blocked out.
You don't understand consequences. You're kind of like big and strong enough to be scary. You know what I mean? You have like a mob mentality with your mates.
Tell me 3 things that you did when you were 15.
Like bad things?
Anything that comes to mind.
Oh. I don't know, man. When I was 15, I was... I wasn't too bad. All I did was kind of...
Rugby,
boxing, play basketball at lunch, be scared of girls. Those are my 4 things.
Nice.
All right. So not too much.
I was pretty good.
Not a bit of booze in there and smoking your first cigarette?
No.
What?
Bro, I'm from the middle of nowhere. Where do you think I'm going to get booze and a cigarette?
Well, I don't know. The dairy.
Your friend's mum's fridge.
I'm half an hour away from a dairy.
Oh, wow. Okay, wow.
That makes it.
Yeah, true. You had that rural upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit different. Okay, but maybe because you grew up so rurally, then once you got the chance to get out, you would be like, oh, I want to experience all of this,
Yeah, that's probably true, yeah.
But that's okay. Well, I'm 15, okay, the piece of advice that I would give myself is like, man, focus. Enjoy life, but focus, what is actually important. And I have to give a shout out because the conversation happened last night, and I'm so happy that with our common friend Ethan Brockett, the Beyblade. He had this epiphany recently where he looked around, he went out, partying. That's fine, like go out, enjoy yourself. At times that's good, but I think he overdid it a little bit, and I don't want to put you to shame, Ethan. I think that's a beautiful story. And he was like, what am I doing here? Like we are, he was saying, the people that are close to me, that's good to, have an experience with them, share a drink, play some games and, a bit table tennis and whatnot. That's cool. But constantly going out partying with people that I don't even know, talking to chicks that, who knows where this is going to take me, it's nothing sustainable. Like, this is not going to get me where I want to be, And I wish I would have had that epiphany when I was that young, being on the brink to maybe become a professional soccer player, hoping that my dad would, provide a bit more guidance of be like, focus, go out on the weekend after the game, but not the night before, and still think you're the man when you're playing, save the cigarettes and booze and the titties for after. But, get the job done first. And I thought sometimes I could do it the other way around. Focus in those moments where it counts. Because it's the same with training, you don't have to win every battle in the gym. But when it counts, when you compete, that's when you have to switch it on. Yeah, I don't know. I just wish that I would have had a bit more guidance back then from maybe my parents or my father, because those are the people that you need then to be like, that's fine, go and have a drink, you're a teenager with your boyfriend, with your boyfriends, with your friends, and then with your girlfriend and this and that. But do it after, then I wouldn't be so. I would maybe still sit here, but balling and having, secured the bag already. Anyway, that's not the point. But that's 15, I reckon. And then what was the other age?
25.
Oof, 25.
Was that when you were doing your cycling trip?
Just before, I think. Mm-hmm. And this is another philosophical project. Keep fucking going. And I relate this to everything and anything in life. Once again, this podcast, nothing has to be perfect in life, We're sitting here in a storage room that we converted into an office space for us, but we make it happen. It's the same with art. When I do art, I figured out over the years, as long as I keep going, I will get to the result that I kind of at least in that moment, I still come back to art pieces and put another layer on top, add another technique that I learned, if I have not sold it already, because I can't walk into someone's house and be like, oh, just let me add this now, It's a moment in time. It's like a tattoo, this is where I was at that point, and it's the same with art. And just keep going, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be spot on. You will get there eventually, as long as you just keep going, you keep showing up. It's the key for anything in life. Consistency to get better in training, get better with business. In a couple months, I'm telling you, we're sitting here with banners. Maybe we have our own office studio, that stuff will come, but you just have to keep going, keep doing it. And with the cycling trip, flat tires, no food, no this, no that, Life is full of adversity, but you just gotta fight through it, It's just you have two options. You shy away from it, you crumble, or you get back up, you brush it off, and off we go into the future. Perfect.
I've got one question before we wrap up.
Okay, I have one too, but please you first.
If you can, try and think of what is a skill that you learnt, a lesson that you learnt that taught you that you're able to learn a lesson about soccer, football, martial arts, but translates to other areas of your life? Do you remember the first time you had that
epiphany? Damn. No, I can't pinpoint that to an epiphany.
Do you remember a time in your life, like what you were doing, or like an activity that taught you the importance of experiences?
No, I do not. Maybe it was. Nah, that's too recent. But no, unfortunately, Tim, I cannot think. That's too on it. Like I think I would have to have time to like let it simmer and then come back with something.
Watch the space.
Can I add one?
Go.
Yeah, maybe I just need a bit more direction here. I don't know.
So, for me, because I was a little bit of a, some would say, fluffy. Shout out Juan. I was a little bit of a fluffy 10-year-old and got demoted from halfback to prop in rugby in under 10s. And I remember like not wanting that to be a thing. And I remember, actually, this is a little bit of a share, but I'll give it. So I remember when we had a swimming module in PE, and we all had to take our shirts off, and one of the like girls in the class that was real pretty made fun of my man boobs, and I was like, whew. And that started me running, and I started running like 10-ish Ks a day, like every day, and it like completely kind of changed my life, because it showed me, because I got so much better at like rugby. I got fit, like, and then I started like winning cross country, setting records at like athletics and stuff like that, and it just showed me that like my inputs control my outputs. So if it's garbage in, it's garbage out. And I think that like physical things are a really easy like representation of that, but obviously it can be applied across.
But you think you needed that, even though that was very hurtful?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Oh, also, yeah, just my dad set a really good example of being a runner, and so I used to really like watching rugby late at night, and then he'd be like, you can only watch rugby tonight if you go for a 10k run tomorrow. And I was like, all right, sweet. But then as soon as you see like the results, you build the momentum, and then it just becomes part of you, right? So I think
interesting, because it should not be external. The motivation should not be external. But I think he saw that, you know, it was important for you to just have that, you know, that first domino to push over.
Yeah.
You go for that run, and then after a while you figure out, oh, there's actually, he doesn't have to tell me to do this. Like you create a habit from it.
It's the momentum. You just need someone to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and if you want to be a good rugby player, you have to run. You know, you got to run your, not just your mouth. You know, you got to run your legs and put some gas in the tank.
I think that is the reason that, like, I probably overwork myself, I would say. Is because it's always inputs in, outputs out. You know what I mean?
Okay, if we're talking about that, like nothing internal, then I think I can pinpoint something now. That was just when I left for New Zealand the very first time. My sensei ordered me to the dojo where we used to train, and he was like, you will have one final training session with me, just with me. Where we had a group session that was like 2 hours already. It was pretty grueling, you know, it was partials and drills, sparring orientated, you know, it was working towards that. And then everyone left, he farewelled everyone, and he was like, no, you stay. And I think we straight grappled, no rounds, straight grappled for at least an hour. And then he like rolled over, and I thought we were done. And he was like, no, now put the gloves and shin pads and everything on. And I was like, oh, okay, put that on. And then we sparred, no sparring, you know, he basically beat me up for another 2 hours. So I think the whole experience was with the training session before, I don't know how many, just the fighting with him, like on the ground and standing, was just, that alone was like 2.5, 3 hours sessions before. And he would not stop, you know, I would get basically at the hiding of my life. But he got up afterwards and he said to me, now you're ready to leave. Because he must have known that I'm probably not going to come back. but he wanted to give me that last piece of the puzzle, maybe, to like set me off into the world. It's like, now you can go. And then afterwards we showered, da-di-da-di-da. And he didn't say that with like a grudge or anything. He was like, Armin, a samurai does not complain. So it's like, not complain in life. Work with what you have. You know, don't complain about the aircon not working, this and that. Open the door. If you're in the car and the aircon is not working, put the window down. Take your shirt off. You know, like, a samurai does not complain. And yeah, that was a big one, you know, like, no matter what you have in life, this is how I translated it, there's always beauty in it. It can be better, but it can be worse, you know. Be thankful for what you have, you know. I'm thankful that we all had time together to get here on a Friday, you know, like taking time off work and making it happen, you know, like with a common goal in mind. Maybe that's a bit of a story that I would like to throw in, but it's interesting that for both of us it was something external that happened, but it changed something within us to then come back out. I don't know. I think that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Were you about to say something else? No, that was the last one. Okay, I have a question for both of you. Just think about it. And if we would have done the banter series today, which is more like a sparring between us with words and questions, that would have been one of my main questions. That leaves a lot of room. But why do you guys think that the physical training can be weightlifting, can be jiu-jitsu, maybe you train judo, you do all of it, maybe you love go hiking. Why do you guys think the physical or the training as such is so important for your life right now, or has been in the past?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, if you feel like it. Tim needs a minute.
I think that, kind of going back to that same thing, I think that physical training is the easiest representation of like your work producing something. I think that in like the world, sometimes, like, no matter like how hard you work, you might not get the results that you think you deserve, but it's a very like empirical measure of what you're doing is like your body or your skills, you know what I mean? So kind of going back to that running thing, it's like, yeah, I'm going for runs, I'm getting better at this, I'm getting better at that, you know. And I think that there's like higher levels to like improvement, but I think that it's the baseline one where it's like the easiest to understand and it's the easiest to appreciate.
Well, you feel better instantly.
You feel better, and it's just progress, right? Progress is happiness. Acceleration is happiness. Velocity isn't happiness. You know what I mean?
We should end here now.
Full stop.
But Tim?
It probably boils down to 3 reasons for me personally. The first one is like, kind of like Gus just said there, it is sort of the easiest way to get results that you can look at, whether it's your physical appearance, your weight, your run time. It's measurable. It's measurable, there you go. The second thing is like a social aspect too. It forces you to get out of your room, out of your unless your whole friends and family are coming to the gym with you, you're forced to separate yourself from them and go and explore the world on your own, especially when you reach the later part of your 20s too. Maybe some of your friendships from high school have whittled out a little bit. Maybe you need to find some new friends, there's that aspect. And the third one for me is, it sort of ties into that second one, is your own personal brand, yourself, your identity. When I go to friends' homes or family barbecues and everyone's like, oh, how's work? And there's all this small talk. I hate talking about the same things and not having anything to bring up that's actually interesting for these people. Not that I do MMA for them, but I like having parts of my life that are interesting and that people want to actually learn more about. And it gives you a lot more confidence that you're like, oh cool, I'm actually excited to talk about this thing.
Doing cool shit.
Yeah, I'm doing cool shit, and that their interest tells me that I'm doing something different because they're all looking at me right now, explaining what it was like to fight. And if I was explaining what challenges I went through with my work this week, it's less interesting. It's more cliche, more normal. Though it's unique and special to me, I don't know, it just serves as a marker for, okay, I'm doing something different, I'm pushing a boundary of some kind. yeah, those are the three things I get out from physically moving my body. And then you got the chemical and science part of it as well. Like you need oxygen, your hormone changes and whatnot. That's a bit of a long-winded answer. Did that all make sense?
It's not like you gotta. Apart from that, you need to write down the steps that you mentioned from. It's instant results and it's creates happiness. You excel, and then you said something else like that was almost like, like Harold the giraffe was like dong 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 dong, like military media martial arts. You said something that like followed up on like that made a lot of sense.
What did you say? Yeah.
I don't know. Acceleration, not velocity, creates happiness.
There you go.
Thank you. Just wanted to throw it out there one more time. Well, you have.
Would you like to add anything else?
Man, no. We've been probably chatting for quite some time now.
About an hour and 15.
Should I sign it off?
Sign us. Well, you're in charge here.
Hold on, you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, that has been your podcast today. I am your host, Gus Barrier, and this has been HUIs with HOKA and Timothy. Cheer.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Talk to you soon.